Good afternoon, everyone. It is Angie, and today I am joined by Oswald. And sort of keeping in the tradition of doing an after-school STEM show that sort of relates back to the book that was read to Orion. Well, yesterday we read The Perfect Nest to our bunny Orion, and this book is about a cat who tries to build the perfect nest in order to convince a chicken to lay an egg so the cat can then make an omelet, and all the things that happen in this book. And so my goal is not to poke scientific holes in a kid's book because, well, that is one thing I do enjoy doing. That's not what we're here to do today. But I did start, this book got me thinking of some actual, like, scientific things that happen. So the first thing I got to thinking about was, would a cat eat an egg? Could a cat eat an egg? And when we start thinking about things like that, like what does an animal eat? What should an animal eat? We start thinking about things like carnivores and herbivores and omnivores. Now those are fancy science words, and they describe what kind of food an animal eats to live. So a carnivore eats meat, an herbivore eats herbs or plants, and an omnivore eats kind of anything. Now, if we get a little more detailed into carnivores, there's a couple different kinds of carnivores. And now these are some more big fancy science words. So we've got obligate carnivores, and we've got facultative carnivores. So an obligate carnivore is a carnivore that absolutely must eat meat, and all it really wants to eat is meat. So Oswald is an example of an obligate carnivore. Owls must eat meat. They must eat other animals. Another really common obligate carnivore is cats. Cats must eat meat or they will get sick. Snakes, most snakes are obligate carnivores. But obligate really just means they are obligated or they must. So there's one kind of carnivores, and those are the carnivores that must eat meat. And so in this book where the cat is eating eggs, a cat could eat an egg. Eggs are actually pretty good, high in protein, but a cat would not survive. It would not be very healthy if all it ate were eggs. Now, on the other side of that spectrum, so we have obligate, meaning you must eat meat. Facultative is sort of the opposite. So that's a carnivore that thrives on meat, that really likes meat, but it can eat other stuff on occasion and it won't get sick, all right? And then on the other, a little bit further down that spectrum is an omnivore. And omnivore is something that a lot of people are pretty familiar with. Humans, we're omnivores. We eat meat and plants. Bears are another really good example of omnivores. Now, when we talk about facultative, we're talking about an animal. A wolf is a really good example of a facultative carnivore. So that's an animal that eats meat, prefers meat, and grows the best with a lot of meat. But they can also eat plants and things like that. All right, so in this book, The Perfect Nest, could a cat eat eggs? Yes. Would a cat be very healthy eating eggs only? No. Cats would get very, very sick because they must eat other animals. All right, so after this cat decides to build this nest, to lay some eggs, to build it, or to make an omelet, the cat ends up with 3 different eggs in that nest, and because he's too busy doing other things, he doesn't pay attention, and those eggs hatch, and those babies follow the cat around as if it were it's their parents. And so that is an example of something that we call imprinting. And I think about a week ago, Oswald and I were on the show, and we were talking about imprinting, habituation, and taming. So imprinting is something that I'm not gonna go back over it again, other than it is a very common and a natural thing that is supposed to happen. And sometimes things happen that sort of short circuit that. But the other thing I thought about when we were reading that book is something called brood parasitism. And brood parasitism is where an animal of a species finds a nest of a different species, and that parasitic species lays an egg in a different species nest and sort of tricks that other species into raising someone else's kids. And in Minnesota, the most common example we have of that are brown-headed cowbirds. Brown-headed cowbirds will lay an egg in a different species nest, and those baby cowbirds, when they hatch, what they will actually do is they're not even like able to see or do anything, but they'll start like wiggling around and pushing the other eggs out of the nest, and so the parent ends up raising the cowbird baby instead of its own children. All right. All right, so we have a few guests here in the audience. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking about Oswald. So Oswald is a great horned owl. And when Oswald was a baby, he was found on the ground by some humans. And the humans took him home and they kind of raised him like a pet. And Oswald, being a bird, he should imprint on his parent, but he imprinted on people. So when a baby bird pops out of its egg, after it gains the ability to see, but before it gains the ability to like have a sense of fear, of avoiding things that are bigger than it looks at that first big living thing and goes, oh, that's my parent. I'm going to copy it. I think he agrees with me. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to learn everything I need to know to be successful in a very short period of time. But if that big living thing that the baby sees isn't its parent, it doesn't know the difference. It just says, yep, that's the thing I'm going to look at and learn from. And so Oswald spent so much time as a young baby surrounded by only people, no other owls. He looks at humans as if we were all the same species. So you could think about it. He thinks he's a human, or he thinks humans are owls. And so he's physically healthy. He can see, he can hear, he can fly, he can do all that stuff. But he doesn't understand how to act like an owl. So he doesn't understand how to hunt or find a nest or a girlfriend or any of those things that he would have to do. And so that's why he lives here. So he was born able to hoot and to fly and things like that. So he's got some instincts, but that more complicated stuff, he doesn't understand how to do it. So he wouldn't survive out in the wild, and that's why Oswald lives at the Headwaters Science Center. Do you guys have any questions about Oswald or owls or anything like that? You can ask if you want to, but I know we don't want to do too much pressure, so no? All right. Any questions or comments from the internet? All right, well, it was a short after school STEM, but short is good. So we are open 7 days a week. Let's see, Monday through Saturday, 9:30 to 5, Sundays 1 to 5. We are on the internet every day at 3:30. Snake feeding this weekend? Nope. All right. So if you're around, check us out.